Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. It has been quite some time since I shared a Crockpot video, so I am excited to get this one out today. We are well into Crockpot season now, so I hope you find some good inspiration in this video or maybe a recipe or two that you'd like to try yourself. Let's go ahead and get started. First up today, we're making this red beans and rice recipe. I've actually never made anything like this before, so this was a little bit of an experiment for me. I went ahead and started by chopping up half of a yellow onion and one green bell pepper into nice small little pieces. Next, I'm slicing up one package of turkey smoked sausage. You don't have to use turkey, that's just the one I prefer. You can use any kind that you like. Now over to my crock pot. I am just using a smaller crock pot since there is only 2 of us. You'll need to add in 1 can of undrained red kidney beans, 1 can of drained dark red kidney beans. You'll add in your smoked sausage, onion, green pepper, a ½ cup of chopped celery, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, a ½ teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and a ½ teaspoon of chili powder, and then about 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. At this point, we're just going to mix this together really well. I'm going to add the lid and let this cook on a low heat for about 4 to 5 hours until everything is nice and tender. This is what it'll look like when it is all done. I just served this over some rice. For myself, I actually used some rice cauliflower, and then I added some green onions over the top. I also just recently shared this cornbread recipe, so I will link that down below for you, along with the original recipe for the red beans and rice. Next up, we're gonna make a pulled pork recipe, and I feel like it has been forever since I've made a pulled pork recipe, so we're gonna go ahead and make our own seasoning right now. In this little bowl, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of paprika, a ½ tablespoon of garlic powder, a ½ tablespoon of onion powder, ½ teaspoon of pepper, ½ teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. Go ahead and get that mixed together and set it aside for a moment. Over to my little crock pot, I'm adding in 2 pork tenderloins. My husband said he did remove the silver skins off of these. I believe if you remove them, it just makes them more tender. Did not get that on camera, but you can look it up online and you'll see what I mean. I'm adding in about 1 cup of chicken broth, or you can use vegetable broth, either one is fine. I sprinkled half of my seasoning on, tried to give that a little bit of a mix and flip them around, and then I added the rest of my seasoning in there. Next, add about a ½ cup of your favorite barbecue sauce, and you'll just add the lid on. There's no need to mix it up right now, and let this cook on a low heat for about 7 to 8 hours, and at that point it should be falling apart and very easy to shred just with a fork like this. At this point, you'll get it all shredded, mix up the juices and the seasonings that are in the crock pot, and then you'll add more barbecue sauce in there, and at this point you can add as much barbecue sauce as your heart desires. Add enough to make it nice and saucy. Here's what the finished plates look like. My husband ate his on a brioche bun with some watermelon and corn on the cob, and I actually ate mine in a sweet potato with a little bit of Colby Jack cheese over the top. If you've never tried that, it is different, but it is really, really good. Now we're going to be making this pepper steak over rice recipe. I started by taking 2 sirloin steaks and just slicing those into thicker pieces. If you want to, you can slice them a little bit thinner. I like them to be thicker though. Now over to my cutting board, I'm slicing up about 6 ounces of mushrooms. I do remove the stems, but feel free to leave them in if you like them. I'm also going to slice up 1 yellow onion. And last but not least, you will need 2 bell peppers. It does not matter what color you want to use. I had already sliced them up in the freezer, so I'm just going to be using random colors. In my measuring cup, I have about 3/4 a cup of beef broth. I did microwave that until it was nice and hot, and then I added in 3 beef bouillon cubes. I'm going to let those melt in here, and I'm just going to mix this until they are dissolved. Next, you'll need to add a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. I did use a low sodium soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, about 2 tablespoons of honey, 1 teaspoon of dried ginger, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Make sure you get this mixed together really well. The honey will clump together in the bottom a little bit, so be sure to make sure that is completely mixed in. Now over to my little crock pot, I'm adding in that steak first. I just took my fork and tried to even it out a little bit. Next, you'll pour that liquid over top. Add your bell peppers. Mine were frozen, like I said, so I just tried to break those up a little bit. Added the mushroom and onion on the top, and then to finish it off, I'm adding about 3 tablespoons of minced garlic. I added the lid, and then I let this cook on a low heat for about 5 hours. Here's what it'll look like when it's done. It's not the most vibrant, beautiful dish ever, but it is so tasty. There is a lot of flavor in this crock pot right now. It should be good to go as long as your steak is nice and tender. To finish this off, I did give the sauce a little bit of a taste and decided to add in some more salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I added about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a couple shakes of pepper, and probably about a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. That is all to taste, so make sure you give yours a taste and adjust the seasonings to your liking. Here's what it should look like in your bowl when it is all done. I did just serve this over some rice, so I kept it really nice and simple. This is very warm and cozy and delicious on a chilly fall day. And now we're going to be making my chicken and noodle recipe. I've made this on my channel countless times. Into a large crock pot, I'm adding in 1 family pack of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I did remove any extra fat from these, and this pack is about 5 pounds of chicken. Next, you'll add in 32 ounces of chicken broth. I like to use the low sodium one. 1 family size can of cream of chicken soup, followed by 1 small can of cream of chicken soup. And then 1 stick of unsalted butter. I just tried to give this a little bit of a stir. It's not really going to mix together very well at this point. Add the lid and let this cook on a high heat for about 4 to 5 hours. After that 4 to 5 hours, you will need to pull out the chicken thighs and just shred those up. Once they're all shredded, go ahead and add them right back into the crock pot. Now you'll need to add a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, about a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of salt. You can always adjust the salt and pepper later on in the recipe. Now it's time to add in our noodles. I like to use these Ream's home style egg noodles, and you will need 24 ounces of those. They do sell a 24-ounce bag, but I can never find it at my store, so I just added in 2 12-ounce bags. I gave that a quick mix together to make sure everything was well combined. And now into this little bowl I have 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. I'm just adding a few spoonfuls of the chicken broth and soup mixture. You'll just need to mix those up really well and then add the whole thing back into the crock pot. By adding this, it will help thicken up everything in the end. I added my lid back on and let this go for an additional 2 hours. Here's what it'll look like when it is all done. This is definitely a thicker chicken and noodles, so if you don't like thick chicken and noodles, then you may not like this one. This is one of those recipes that my husband always asks for. I like to make it on holidays because everyone always devours it. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy these recipes. Leave me a flower down in the comments below if you made it all the way to the end. I'd love to know what you thought of today's video as well, and I will see you guys back here next time. Bye!